Now, Trump comes in, and we want to say that Trump's moves are birds of a different feather. But the point that I'm making is the overall architecture of capitalism that's crumbling before our very eyes is, in some ways, we're seeing the political part crumbling, but it's in some ways consistent with the economic crumbling. So in other words, the liberals tried to manufacture some coherent steps to keep the order, but they themselves were acknowledging the order was over, but they lost control. And it's worth thinking about why they lost control and when they lost control. And to some degree, the kind of reactionary left Jacobin argument that the control was lost with these elite candidates that the Democrats kept running, who were committed to those neoliberal policies, is true. That part of it's true. Now, they want to say that's the main thing, and that's where I would disagree, at least in my stereotype and my caricature of it, which might be unfair. But the point that I'm making is it supports your contention here, which is the system is crumbling and it's falling apart and there's a collapse. And it's not, and this goes back to the Greenland and the Ukraine mineral deal and everything else. It's not just the insane clown who wants to run a dictatorship of the United States or a kingdom of the United States, who's like hijacked the country and is going to take us in this irrevocable new direction, even though all that's kind of true. It's also that Trump is also a product of this constellation of forces. He's a representative, a reflection of, he's a manifestation of a collapsing world order that is and was going to collapse anyway. It was already over. And it's over on the climate side. It was over on the trade side. And you could argue it's over on the debt side. And the thing that fucking shoved the nail in the coffin was COVID. The U.S. did not recover from the emergency spending during the COVID era. So even when you point back to Biden's, like, his role in the inflation crisis, et cetera, some of that was, if you believe that, you know, he's responsible for, let's say, 25% of the inflation or whatever, even if the Republicans argue it's 90, the point that I'm making is that, and I'm sorry to go on like this, David.
No, I love it.
The point that I'm making is those COVID era supports increased inflation. They put the nail in the coffin of the old order, and they produced this crack up that you can see with masks and all the culture war stuff that you're so articulate about. It ended it. And so what you're seeing emerge through the Trump thing, to me, is another attempt to make the collapse coherent just on the MAGA terms.
Yeah.
But like Biden, they don't have control. That's number one. They don't have it. They're desperate for it, and they don't have it. And number two, the policies they're enacting to try to regain control at the political and economic level, because some of these actions are the actions of a desperate group, a group that rightfully believes in the fragility of their own power. And we talked about this in the last news trap. These actions are not necessarily going to produce what they want. And so the future isn't Trump and Musk. As bad as it's ever going to get, and we might have a real bad decade here, as bad as it gets, they don't have the power to fix these forces. These forces are in part beyond human. They're beyond human. And so they're going to try their best to do it, but the blowback is going to come from a million different directions, some of which we can already articulate, some of which are true black swans that we can't see them yet.
Yeah.
But the blowback's going to come. And I think that for us as human beings, me and you, like coast to coast here, part of what we have to start to cycle through, and not just this dark 10-year period we're entering politically, but part of what we have to cycle through, aside from our jobs and our personal safety, is we also can't fall into a nostalgia trap about the world before COVID or the world before Trump. It's never returning. It's not coming back. And we can think about our individual or familial adaptations. But part of the challenge for us as intellectuals and as, you know, our students or whatever, whoever we are, part of our challenge is to start to see past these Trump fears and into the reality that's behind their lies, including the things they can't see, and then to reassemble that into a shape of something we can grasp in the days, weeks, and years to come.